On Wednesday, Pennsylvania Democratic gubernatorial nominee Josh Shapiro laced into his GOP opponent Doug Mastriano, following revelations that Mastriano had dressed up as a Confederate soldier. Mastriano, a Trump-backed state senator, chose to wear a Confederate military uniform for a 2013-2014 faculty photo he appeared in while teaching at the Army War College, according to Reuters. Faculty members were allowed to dress as historical figures for the photo, but 15 of the 21 pictured wore their regular clothes, and Mastriano was the only one to dress in a gray Confederate soldier uniform, according to Reuters. Mastriano was a professor at Army War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, from 2012 to 2017, teaching in the college's Department of Military Strategy before retiring from the Army. The college had displayed the photo alongside other faculty portraits, but removed it after the news outlet inquired about the image. Shapiro, the Keystone State's Attorney General and favorite in the election, condemned Mastriano, calling the revelation about the costume a, quote, solemn and serious moment.
Well, we good? You all set? Ready, Mr. President? Good morning, everyone. This is a solemn and serious moment in this campaign and in our Commonwealth. And I'm honored to be joined today by Pennsylvania's next Lieutenant Governor, Austin Davis, along with so many wonderful leaders here in the city of Philadelphia, to call out the dangerous extremism that we see coming in the Republican nominee for governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We're here today because just a few years ago, on the sacred grounds of the U.S. Army War College, right here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the Republican nominee for governor chose to wear the uniform of the Confederacy, chose to wear the uniform of the traitors, the people who went to battle to defend slavery. The U.S. Army War College said that image, that decision to wear the uniform of the Confederacy on the grounds of the U.S. Army War College did not reflect their values. I'm here today with these fine leaders to say it doesn't reflect our values either. Nor do I believe it reflects the values of the good people of Pennsylvania. It's a solemn and serious day as well because I don't think any of us are shocked to learn that he wore the uniform of traitors. This, of course, is the same man who's been recruiting white supremacists to join his campaign for governor, the only candidate in the nation who has made that decision. You see, he fundamentally believes that certain people don't count. Certain people shouldn't be part of our collective future. Certain voices shouldn't be heard based on where they're from, what they look like, who they love, or who they pray to. This man is dangerous. It doesn't reflect our values. I'm proud to be here today with people who look out for all Pennsylvanians. People who, like me, I imagine we're not shocked to see that image because of his long history of dealing with white supremacists and extremists. But people who, like me, want to build a Pennsylvania that lifts everyone up. I'm grateful for their leadership, and I'm grateful they're with us today. And at this time, I'd like you to hear from Philadelphia City Council President and my dear friend, Darrell Clark.
Thank you so much, General Shapiro. General, rep, friends, as we stand here on the Parkway, I look across the street and I see a memorial for the colored soldiers, right? And it reminds me when I was a young staffer for then Council President John Street, and he assigned me to the Fairmont Park Commission Advisory Council, right? I was there with Mary Mason, some of you all remember her. And somebody took us on a tour of Memorial Hall at the time, and behind Memorial Hall, deeply embedded in the woods, we found a statue. And it was the statue, the Colored Soldiers Memorial. And we said, well, why is this back here, right? So I called my boss, Street, he calls Rendell, and lo and behold, with a lot of activism, they moved the statue here, right where it should be, in one of the most prominent places on the parkway. So 20 years later, Mr. Mastriano, he decides to put on a Confederate uniform, right? And in direct conflict with what that memorial, that statue stands for. And I say, as I see the pictures, how can he represent the city of Philadelphia? How can he represent the state of Pennsylvania? Pennsylvania, the state that had arguably the most African American soldiers in the Civil War, right? How can he represent us? Hell no, that can't happen. At the end of the day, he is too extreme to represent us. He's too extreme to represent Philadelphia. He is way too extreme to represent Pennsylvania. So to all of my friends, General, Rep, we're going to do whatever we have to do to make sure that you are in the governor's mansion and not some extreme individual like Mr. Mastriano. So I want to thank you all so much. We're behind you 1,010%. We're going to make sure that this happens in November. So thank you. Right now, I'd like to introduce Bishop. I'm glad I came before you. I know your speech is going to be much more stirring. Bishop Royster, come on. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. And thank you, Attorney General Shapiro, for extending the invitation to be here today. Representative Davis, thank you so much. Pleasure to meet you today. 158 years ago, right outside of Richmond, Virginia, in a place called Chaffin's Farm, my great-great-great-uncle was in a battle during the United States Civil War. He was a first sergeant in the U.S. colored troops. At that particular battle that day, the colored troops were fighting with the Union Army. All the white officers had been killed. All the white non-commissioned officers had been killed, and there was disarray on the battlefield. My great-great-great-uncle picked up the Union standard, led black and white soldiers into battle that day at Chaffin's Farm. 158 years ago, this September 28, 29th. I lift this up not because many of us have relatives that were in the U.S. military, but that day, because of his leadership and because of the work that my great-great-great-uncle did that day, he was one of the first African-American men in this country ever to win the Congressional Medal of Honor. As a matter of fact, it sits in the African-American Historical and Cultural Museum down in Washington, D.C. right now. When I think about Doug Mastriano wearing a Confederate uniform in the state of Pennsylvania, in the U.S. Army War College in Carlisle, I think about the hatred that spurned the Civil War. I think about what that uniform means to hundreds of thousands of African Americans, millions of African Americans that live in the state of Pennsylvania right now. The fact that undergirding all of that is white Christian nationalism that has given a bad name to Christianity in this country right now, and is helping us to believe that somehow or another it is acceptable to be exclusionary, to be hate-filled, to be ignorant in every way, shape, and form. The more disappointing thing for us is that there are Pennsylvanians out there that want this. But I'm here today in my personal capacity, let me be clear about that, to say very clearly that there are Pennsylvanians that are standing here, Pennsylvanians that look like me, that will not allow this to continue to happen. And that we will need to support Attorney General Josh Shapiro in the election ahead. That we have to root out evil, root out hate, root out misogyny and patriarchy and everything that Confederate uniform and everything that the white Christian nationalism that stands behind it represents. We have to become architects of a new Pennsylvania where we come together, black and white and Asian and Pacific Islander and indigenous and Latinx, and come together, LGBTQ and those that are straight and those that are non-binary, come together and make a decision about the Pennsylvania that we want. And we know the only way to get that Pennsylvania we want is to have Josh Shapiro as our next governor. And for our folk of faith that are out there, standing around right now, we cannot allow this white Christian nationalism to stand, this hatred to stand. And we need to remind Doug Mastriano that Pennsylvania was always north of the Mason-Dixon line. It was always north of the Mason-Dixon line. I don't know why he would have the audacity to wear that uniform, wear it within the borders of the state of Pennsylvania, wear it when he's an elected official here in the state of Pennsylvania, wear it so that people would see his hatred, wear it, and have the audacity to think that Pennsylvania will be a state of hate. It will not be that. And it will become better than that because of Josh Shapiro. So thank you all very much for letting me come and share today. Ms. A.G., lead us into a new place. And now I want to introduce one of the great leaders here in the city of Philadelphia, Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Greetings and good morning, and thank you so much, Bishop Royster, for those words, Council President Clark. To our candidates, Josh Shapiro, and our candidate for Lieutenant Governor, Austin Davis, we welcome you here to the great city of Philadelphia at a site that is solemn, a site where we commemorate soldiers and sailors from the U.S. Civil War, and an inscription on one of these marble pylons that reads, "In giving freedom to the slave, we assure freedom to the free." And some of you will say, it's 2022. Why is that important? And I'm so glad you asked. At the heart of the Civil War was an effort to preserve slavery. Now, history tells us that the Confederate was not successful. But here we are in 2022, still dealing with the vestiges of that time in our history. Still dealing with people who think people who look like me have no value and have no place, and certainly have no place of stature in our society. We're talking about this because on January 6, 2020, we had people attack the very heart of our democracy based on lies with Confederate flags in their arms. So here we are, in the battle for the soul of this nation, a battle for the protection of our most basic rights for so many, especially those who look like me. And we have a man running to be governor of this Commonwealth who just 8 years ago, posed for a photo in a Confederate uniform. And I'll tell you this, contrary to popular belief in those tweets, this is not about dressing up for history's sake. This is about a man who, unfortunately, like so many others, still believe in a time and believe we should go back to a time where my great-great-grandparents were enslaved. They want to dress up as Confederate soldiers who were literally fighting to preserve a system where my ancestors were not free. And we cannot stand for it. We will not stand for it. We cannot allow this man anywhere near the governor's mansion in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And as our Attorney General stated, he is unfit to be governor and senator for that matter. Now, my mother was born off the coast of South Carolina to parents whose grandparents were slaves. And my mother told me, when people show you who they are, you believe them. And you believe them the first time. Doug Mastriano has shown us time and time again who he really is. And we better believe in Pennsylvania. He was at the Capitol on January 6th. He already stated he wants power over our elections. We know he does not believe in a woman's right to choose. And now we have proof that he wants to play dress up with Confederate uniforms. When people show you who they are, Pennsylvania, you must believe them. And in the next 69 days, every single one of us here assembled, and I'm asking all of you to do everything we can to elect Josh Shapiro our next governor and Austin Davis our next lieutenant governor. We say it all the time, this is one of the most important elections of our lifetime. We will not go back, Doug Mastriano. We are only going forward. And we will go forward with Josh Shapiro as our next governor and Austin Davis as our next lieutenant governor. Thank you all so very much. And now I'm proud to introduce to all of you, my friend, our state rep from North Philadelphia, my former mentor and friend, State Representative Donna Bullock. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. See, when you get to go later in the program, everybody say all your words. But I was going to say somebody's grandmother somewhere, it was Catherine Gilmore Richardson's great-grandma down on the coast of South Carolina that said, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And Mastriano has showed us over and over again who he is. He is the person who chartered buses to go to D.C. on January 6th. He is the person that very blatantly said that he does not believe in abortion as health care. He is the person who wore a Confederate uniform for dress-up. He is the person who has over and over again shown us that he is not fit, Attorney General, to be our governor. Let me tell you who he is not. He is not the person that will lead this Commonwealth into the future. He is not the person that will address the inequities that we have talked about in this Commonwealth from Erie to Easton, from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh. He is not the person that is going to push us forward to a Commonwealth where we have a true shared prosperity. He is not the person that Pennsylvanians should vote for in November. That person is Attorney General Josh Shapiro. That person is my good friend who has represented the people of Pennsylvania in the Attorney General's office, who has represented our interests, protected us, and has defended us in court, in lawsuits, against the former presidential administration, against student loan companies who have been predatory, who have been there for Pennsylvanians for many years. He is the person that we should be electing in November to be governor. And I want to let you know, Attorney General, that I, in my capacity as your friend, as chair of the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus, we are here to support you, and we are here to make sure we elect the right person, because he has shown us who he is. He has shown us who he is time and time again. He is the person we want to elect as governor of the Commonwealth. Attorney General, we are with you. And with him will be my good friend, son of a union bus driver, right? Son of a hairdresser. Make sure I did my hair right today. I tried something new. I'm going to check with your mom. Son of Pittsburgh, Allegheny County. My good friend and our future lieutenant governor, I am honored to present to you Representative Austin Davis.
Thank you so much, Donna, and thank you to all the leaders who are assembled here today. I'm grateful that you all took time to stand with Josh and I in this very serious and important moment, not just in this campaign, but in the trajectory of this Commonwealth. Many of the previous speakers so eloquently laid out the stakes, but I'm just going to put a finer point on it. Doug Mastriano wore the uniform of the Confederacy, the side that fought to keep people that look like me enslaved and in bondage. I want you to think about the message that that sends to the millions of black and brown Pennsylvanians here in this Commonwealth. I can remember vividly as a child, my dad and I were riding in a car, and I saw a Confederate flag on a bumper sticker. And I said to my dad, I said, "What does that mean?" I said, "That's not our flag." And he pointed to the Confederate flag, and he told me that people who fought for that flag wanted to keep people who looked like us in bondage. And that when people wave that flag or wear that uniform today, they are showing support for our enslavement. They are keeping white supremacy alive. That's the message that Doug Mastriano is sending.
This wasn't 30 years ago when he was a kid. This was 2014. And his running mate, Carrie Del Rosso, hasn't said a word. She should condemn him and speak clearly about what's right and what's wrong. The Army War College acknowledged that what he did was wrong. They took down his photo and condemned him. And to quote them, said, it does not represent Army War College values. This is just yet another reminder of how dangerous Doug Mastriano is. And just to recap it, he marched on January 6th at our Capitol. He crossed police barricades. He advertised and sought supporters on a social media site called Gab, which is a haven for white supremacists and extremists. And now we find out he wears the Confederate uniform. Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, my mom told me that same slogan, that same statement. When people show you who they are over and over and over again, we must believe them. Doug Mastriano over and over again has demonstrated through his own words and his own actions, not things that Josh and I have been saying, but his own words and actions, that he is unfit to lead our Commonwealth as our next governor and has no interest in leading broad swaths of our population. The stakes are high for Black Pennsylvanians in this election. As a proud American who's running to be Pennsylvania's first Black lieutenant governor, it's clear who Doug Mastriano is fighting for and the threats he poses to the Black community here in Pennsylvania. Black Pennsylvanians deserve leaders who will fight for them. Josh and I will always stand up and fight extremism and hatred in every form. And we will always focus on delivering real results for Black communities by creating economic mobility, eliminating inequalities here in our Commonwealth, improving our school systems here, and tackling gun violence. With Josh Shapiro and I serving as your governor and lieutenant governor, you will ensure that the people closest to the pain are closest to the power, and that working class folks in Pennsylvania have a voice in the governor and lieutenant governor's office. We are bigger than Doug Mastriano's hate and his extremism, and on November 8th, we're going to send a message here in Pennsylvania and show him the door. Thank you. And with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Before we take your question, we're happy to take them. Their words may not have been heard today, but their presence is felt. And so I want to thank my good friends, Senator Sharif Street, also the chairman of our state Democratic Party. I want to thank Senator Hughes. You can clap for Sharif if you want. That's all right. I want to thank Senator Hughes. I want to thank Senator Williams. I want to thank Senator Saval. Y'all can have a caucus meeting here when you're done if you'd like. I also want to thank my dear friend and brother Marshall Mitchell, who's taught me much and who is with us today. Pastor Mitchell, thank you to you and to all of the clergy leaders who are with us today, both physically and in spirit. I think I got everybody. Pastor Herndon and others, Melissa Robbins, many other leaders here, but their words may not have been heard, but their presence is felt. I'm very grateful to each and every one of them for being with us. And with that, Austin and I are more than happy to take your questions, and Darrell will take the tough questions. Yes.
There are reenactments, Civil War reenactments that take place. And I wonder, what is your feeling about those? And do you feel that they are appropriate in uniforms to take place?
So let's be clear, this wasn't a civil rights or a Civil War reenactment. It was a fact